Well, folks, we are at the bottom of the hour and we have quite a few people in, so let's go ahead and get started. So, hello and welcome to the June 23 summer edition of the PowerShell Community Call. I'll be your host today, and here in the Pacific Northwest, we are welcoming the warmer weather and sunshine. And it is that time of year again when people take holiday and spend time outdoors. Some lucky folks are halfway around the world at this very moment getting ready to attend PSConf EU. So hello to all of them as well. With all of that in mind, we have a shortish agenda today. So before we get started, as a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and we ask everyone to follow our code of conduct that I posted in the chat. Oh, and hey, we are updating our contribution guide. So if you wouldn't mind, give that a look too here over the next couple of days. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started with our shortish agenda. As Steve Lee posted, if you want to take a look at the discussions, there's where our agenda is. You can also post questions for us that we will attempt to answer throughout this show. And so I'm going to go ahead and just dive right in. And the first thing on our list is going to be discussing the release of PSResourceGet. And I'm here. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Before I hand it over to you, I just have to say a friend of mine just like 2 days ago told me that they had just downloaded and tried PSResourceGet. And they said this, tell the devs, I didn't have to fight it. It just worked. Thank
Oh,
you. So how's
that's
that for a
amazing to
lead in?
hear. That's amazing to hear, Jason. We love to hear that. And I hope that's everyone else's experience too. Yeah, let me get right into PSResourceGet. So I'm just going to kind of look at the blog post because there are some other changes I also wanted to mention. So we recently just shipped a preview of PSResourceGet, and it was formerly known as PowerShell and the reason we did this change is because we would like to get the PowerShell Get v3 code that we've been working on into PowerShell, but we also don't want to break users who might be using the PowerShell Get v2 commandlets with fully qualified names. So, you in your scripts, you may have PowerShell Get.install module, and then when we ship PowerShell Get with PowerShell, we don't want to break you and have you really need to move on to the v3 commandlets, unless you would like to. So we don't want to break those users. So what we did is we renamed the PowerShell Get v3 module to be PSResourceGet, and then the compat PowerShell Get module is going to be renamed to PowerShell Get. So if in your scripts you have PowerShell Get.install module, that is now going to go through the compat PowerShell Get layer, aka PowerShell Get now, and then that is going to call PSResourceGet's engine and map it to install PSResource. So you will get the perf improvements of PSResourceGet. And overall, this renaming just helps us have the v2 and v3 commandlets side by side. But yeah, we do encourage folks to move to PSResourceGet. You definitely see a lot of perf improvements and just I think better separation of commandlets too. So that was one of the breaking changes. And we did change the versioning. So currently it is going to be, so the PSResourceGet preview that we released is version 0.5.22-beta22. And there was a lot of thought that went into the versioning of this module, but basically when we get to GA, we're going to ship 1.0.0 for that. Yeah. And then some other breaking changes that we have are just some renaming of commandlets to better suit what they are doing. So update PS script file is now update PS script file info. Same for new PS script file, becoming new PS script file info. Update module manifest is update PS module manifest. And then on the script file info and module manifest commandlets, we had a tags parameter that we changed to be tag, just to be more congruent with the tag parameter across our other commandlets. But there is an alias, so if you are using tags, it shouldn't break you. And then install, save, and uninstall PS resource can now take an array of PS resource info objects for the input object parameter. And we're also not referencing PS module path when searching through paths anymore. So there's that. The other thing that we included in this release that we're very excited about is we are supporting Azure Artifacts, GitHub Packages, Artifactory, and MyGet feed. And we have done more thorough testing with that and just kind of covering which scenarios we are supporting. And we will We will or also should have documentation for which scenarios we just cannot support for those at the moment. I just wanted to quickly give a demo for our support for Azure Artifacts and GitHub Packages now. So I'll start with GitHub Packages. So over here, let me go one back. So over here under the PowerShell Get, under the PowerShell org and the PowerShell Get repo, we have these packages associated. They're just test packages, so don't go using them or needing them. But it's just for our testing purposes. And we have the package test module, for example. So let's say I want to find this package. What I would do is I first register that repository for my GitHub packages. So I've already got that over here. And as you can see, the namespace is the PowerShell org. And if I were to do find PS resource, GitHub packages as the repository, and then you do need to use a credential for GitHub packages. And you can see that it's now able to find it, and I can find pre-release versions. You can do searching by version and tag combined, by tags. So there is a lot that we've added, or we've just like ensured that there is support for. And then, yeah, the other thing that I wanted to also just quickly show is the Azure Artifacts feed support. So over here, we have a public feed on ADO. So this means that you are not going to need credentials. And let's say I wanted to find this package test local module or test local mod. I could do find PS resource dash name test local mod repository Azure Artifacts. And I have registered this repository with the ADO NuGet feed URI. And if I do this, this also works. I can get pre-release versions, which is pretty great too. And similarly, you could search by version. You could search by like name and tags. And there is, yeah, our find support. You could also do install, but I don't know, I don't want to eat up too much of the time. So yeah, just wanted to kind of mention that the blog post is I like a great place just to kind of see the changes we've made. We made a whole slew of bug fixes also. But yeah, we're also just really eager to hear the community's feedback. And I think honestly, really hearing about which feeds you guys are using and where maybe support wasn't up to par or where we would like to see support has really helped us in our development process. So yeah, just keep that feedback coming in.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. And thanks for pointing out, folks, you can go to the PowerShell team blog and check out that latest blog on that to help you get started and to work with that.
I'll drop that in the chat. All right. Thanks, Jason.
Perfect. Thank you. That's awesome. That's awesome. Next on our list is to talk about some release updates for PowerShell 7.4. So my friend Aditya, compadre, what's going on with 7.4 and what can we do here with a a new preview release?
Just 7.4, but I had quick announcements about all the upcoming releases. So we'll be having releases for 7.2, 7.3 shortly in a couple of days. And after those are done, we'll be having the next preview for 7.4 coming up next week.
Oh, so next
watch
week
out for those.
Oh, so great.
There's some upgrades to stable LTS and also previews coming this month.
Oh, wow. Lots and lots of releases coming up then. So 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 next week. Wow. A lot of work there. That's awesome. Thank you. And that will then take us over to a docs update from Sean Wheeler. How you doing, Sean?
Helps if I unmute. Good. So I talked about most of this last month, but as always, check out our What's New in PowerShell docs. There was one feature that I meant to talk about last month that I forgot, and that was to point out the download PDF feature is now enabled. There were technical issues that didn't allow us to do this in the past. Those have been fixed. And so now you can download the PowerShell documentation as a PDF. If you have selected a page here that's above the reference, above this line, these are the conceptual docs. And when you download the PDF, it'll contain just that information above the line there. If you are down in any of these commandlet reference docs and you choose download PDF, then you will get all of the commandlet reference for the selected version of PowerShell.
Wow.
So it'll be one PDF file for each version if you wanted to do that, but you finally have that option. And just to reiterate some of the PowerShell Get information, we've moved our PowerShell Get documentation into its own doc set so that we can document the various versions of it separately. So the PowerShell Gallery and PowerShell Get docs are here. If you select the PowerShell Get v3 docs, you'll see we have now documentation for the PSResourceGet module with all the new commandlet names that have changed and so on. And then the documentation here for PowerShell Get, this is actually has been updated to reflect the changes in the PowerShell, the compat module. So these are proxy commands, and you can see here this find command commandlet. If you're using the old PowerShell Get commands like find command or find module, there'll be a proxy commandlet that calls find PS resource. And there's information in here about which parameters are supported and not supported. So there are some differences, but mostly any parameters that are not supported will just be ignored. So your scripts, any existing scripts should basically continue to work, but you should test them to be sure you're getting the results you expect.
Ooh.
And that's the docs update.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, Sean. Hey, Stephen, are you online? Did you want to talk about the build video or you want me to talk about it?
Why don't you talk about it, Jason?
Okie dokie. Hey, folks, I'm going to give you a link here. You've probably seen it in the agenda. So a couple of weeks ago, if I can hit this, I think I hit it. A couple of weeks ago, Sydney, Stephen, and myself sat down to shoot a video for Microsoft Build about things that might interest folks that are in development and working with PowerShell, some of the features that we're working on and things like that. So I encourage you, if you're interested, to please take a look at the build video that we made. It's in our YouTube channel, and I've given you the link there. And hey, while you're there, something else that just got published, and I think, and Jim, I didn't even ask if you wanted to say anything about this, but I'm going to talk about it. And if you'd like to jump in, sir, you are more than welcome. Here's a link out on our YouTube site. Here's a link to a playlist of Crescendo videos. The last one, video number 4, just got posted, and that is an interview with Jim Truer about the internal workings of the Crescendo module itself, that artifact that gets created when you export a Crescendo module. And the reason that Jim goes through this is that it's all written in PowerShell. And you can further make adjustments to that module if you so wanted. You know, maybe you want a write progress bar or something like that. But I guess what the idea is that when Crescendo is just an accelerator, when it gets done doing its work, you can still use the rest of all of the tooling in the PowerShell ecosystem in that module yourself. It's your module. You get to do with what you want. And Jim takes you through a walkthrough of everything that gets written in there and how it's used and how it's utilized. So it might be a really interesting conversation. And Jim, if you would like to say something, I'll totally open up the floor to you. We have plenty of time.
No, you covered it.
No, okay, thank you. And big thanks to you, Jim, for taking the time to do that. I hope you guys really enjoy that. The next and last topic that I have on our agenda, then we'll start to open up the floor and go to questions, that kind of thing, is this one is for Stephen. And this is about, because I have no idea what this is, but I'm going to post the link in, Stephen. It's about a survey of some kind.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. So we just wanted to get a little feedback from community members. We were noticing some of our download sizes and wanted to understand kind of what folks are using for some of the release types that we are posting about PowerShell. So if you don't mind, taking a quick look at that survey, Jason just posted it, and I'll probably post it again towards the end. It shouldn't take more than a few minutes to fill out. We would really appreciate your guys' feedback on which kind of packages you use for the PowerShell releases and why you might need those in your work. So take a look at that, and we really appreciate your feedback. Thanks.
Oh, that's awesome, Stephen. Thank you. And at this point, folks, we have reached towards the end of our shortest.
We do have a demo.
We have not.
We have a demo.
Steve, go ahead.
Not my demo. Justin, are you there? I think you're there because I saw you posting. All right, let me
cool.
queue up your video. Give me a second. Where did I put that thing?
No audio, Justin.
Dang it. Oh, I guess I can just do this way. All right, and then let me share my screen. Let's see if I can get this to work correctly without.
All right, how about now? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, let me know when you're
everybody.
ready. Are you ready for me to play the video?
Here in just a minute, I'll just give a little preamble. So, hey everybody, I'm sure I'm probably pretty choppy and such. I'm in Berlin right now, making my pilgrimage on my way down to PSConf.eu. Just hanging out my nice big old hotel room here, just off the garden in Berlin. And I just want to show a little preview of something that I'm going to be presenting at PSConf.eu. So in PowerShell 7.3, the ability to create custom PowerShell transports for PowerShell remoting was added. And so I had a couple of use cases for this. We had a lot of discussions about this a couple of years ago about what this would look best, because there were several use cases that I had that I wanted to do. And thankfully now there's finally the ability to do it. So what I did was I looked for sort of the best way that I could to do something that would work really simply and easily. So the first thing I found was that I could use WebSockets to transport the PowerShell remoting messages back and forth, and that's built into PowerShell 5.1 and below. And the next thing was that I wanted a nice, easy way to have a sort of rendezvous tunnel for that, so that if wherever that PowerShell instance is operating is like behind a firewall or anything, as long as I can get out on HTTPS, because SSH is usually blocked outbound, but usually HTTPS, especially the Cloudflare, is usually open for whatever websites those might be. I wanted a way to make that easy. And so thankfully, there's a feature from Cloudflare called Cloudflare Quick Tunnels, which are very similar to ngrok and other technologies, but they're able to utilize Cloudflare's infrastructure. And as a result, you don't really have to worry about any of the SSL certificates or any of that kind of stuff. It just kind of works. So with a little bit of elbow grease and learning a lot about all the internals of how that worked, I managed to actually make a custom transport. I named it Posh Anywhere. So I will put the repo here in the chat, and then I'll have Steve sort of just play my quick demo because I wasn't sure if this would work from Europe. So what we have here is on the top is a remote session that wasn't on my local computer, just a server on the internet. And so I just ran a script from the internet, which you can find that link, which goes to this, that starts that WebSocket server and also reaches out to Cloudflare and then gives you the command for my custom session. So then here I have the module imported, and I'm able to start a new WebSocket session, just putting in that host, and was able to rendezvous to that host and start that run space session inside where that one is. And so I'll show here just as a demo. I have the session saved off, and I ran a console write line to the server, and you can see there, hello remote server showed up, and I'm actually able to get stuff from that. So what's happening in the background is through my custom transport is that it's talking to a little localhost WebSocket server, which then gets tunneled through the Cloudflare tunnel. It's all done over HTTPS, so it's all encrypted and everything. But I'm able to basically do PowerShell remoting anywhere that a system is. So that's just a server that was just behind a firewall, just running as a virtual machine in a place. As long as it was able to get out on HTTPS, it was able to connect to Cloudflare and make a rendezvous point, and then be able to communicate back and forth using a custom transport. So to implement a custom transport, you don't really have to understand PowerShell remoting protocol. All you have to know is that it's just a bunch of XML messages that go back and forth. But as long as you can take those strings and transport them however you want, if you want to transport my WebSockets, HTTP3, also there's things about discovery where like if you want to have some kind of list of transports and be able to fan it out real easy, those are all good examples of custom transports. And the client has to be PowerShell 7.3, but wherever your server is can be anything like that. So if you go to my RIP repository, I explain a little bit more about some of the technical details I had to learn in solving this, and I'll have a presentation at PSConf.eu all about this, which if you're coming, great. If not, if you wait a few months, usually all these presentations go up on YouTube and you can see it then. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Have a great time.
Oh, I have been and I will. We've been pilgriming all week from Iceland and Denmark and through Germany, and then I'm going to meet up with some PowerShell friends here in Berlin, and then we're all going to take the train down to Prague and go to PSConf. So it's a great
Wow,
time.
that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Thanks, man, for contributing. Hey, folks, we are now towards the end of our shortest agenda. And I want to point out, as Steve had posted earlier, you can add comments to our discussion. I'll drop that link back in, or you can come right into the chat and add comments. Let's take a minute and go through some of these. I only see one in the community call listing itself, so I'm just going to read this out. I'm not sure. Has anyone considered the idea of adding explicit line ending support for commandlets like outfile? Now that I'm living explat, it's getting to be a royal pain dealing with the control line feed on Linux.
I seem to recall very early on during PowerShell Core 6, this was a topic that came up. I don't recall whether or not we discussed in the context of outfile. Jim, I don't know if you recall, I don't want to put you on the spot, but this topic did come up. I don't remember exactly what we did with this.
Yeah, we did talk about it. It's a really hard problem to solve because you don't know where you are necessarily going to be with your files. So we decided that we would stay with the native behavior for the platform under creation. So on Linux system, you're getting new lines, and on Windows system, you're getting the NR. If somebody has some suggestions on anything other than magic, we're totally interested. But as it turns out, you kind of don't know. If you're suggesting an explicit line ending for outfile, that's something that we could easily. That is something that we should talk about. That. But if you're talking about intuiting where the file may ever be, that's a pretty tricky tricky thing. But if you're talking about explicit line endings, there's something that we could discuss.
Yeah, I seem to
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I seem to recall there was a lot of discussion, again, this is years ago for PowerShell Core 6, about a general conversion type of utility. So not just line endings, but also like UTF-16, UTF-8, Unicode, blah, blah, all that stuff. And we decided not to do anything with that at that time. But I did find this other issue that I posted that does propose a new commandlet. It seems like that's a great thing to have in the gallery. If someone didn't already write such a thing, it wouldn't be that hard. Yeah, I'll put it there for now.
Well, currently I use like DOS to Unix and Unix to DOS when I have to, but I prefer just to force everything to line feeds at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's usually the why. It kind of depends on the platform you're going to use most. So you try to optimize for that. I believe that I might be wrong about this, but I think that if you do a get content of the file and a write content of the file on the platform that you're working on, you get what you should have for the platform. But again, we can certainly investigate the feasibility and the benefit of providing an explicit line ending character for probably outfile, set content. There's a bunch of them we'd want to look at.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was getting at.
I was just adding
like a preference variable too, for that matter.
Add your suggestions to that issue, and then maybe we can have the commandlets working group review it.
Preference, yeah, the preference variable thing. You just simply use, PS default,
right,
parameter value thing. But go ahead, yeah, add your suggestions and we can take a look at it.
To the issue that 6201 that you posted, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, looking at the discussion, like I had a bunch of comments in here from 2018. That's why I don't remember this stuff. But it looks like we did go into some details about whether it makes sense to add it to existing commandlet or new commandlet. So I would suggest read through the lengthy discussion, and we can revisit what we do. And actually, Keith Hill brought up a great point that Jim, you sort of co-own with me, which is the text utility module. It might be a good place to have this.
Sure.
Oh, and Fred, this might be that issue might be a great place for your ideas about console-wide configuration as well.
Cool.
So
Thanks.
please feel free to chat in questions or options. Let's see if we have anything else popping up. I'll pause for a moment.
I think a lot of people are in Europe right now preparing for PSConf EU. So,
yay! Yay!
It's gonna be great.
Maybe I'm hoping to be there maybe next year.
Thomas, I am working on the release build process now for that module, so I'm hoping my hope is in the next few weeks to be that will be released. So that thing is coming. It's getting our release. We have a lot of requirements when we do a release at Microsoft, and those have all got to be satisfied.
And I saw a comment come by Terry, I think it is. I'm running 7.1.4, but can't update using the MSI installer. It ends prematurely because of an error. Any suggestions? Yeah, could you? Yeah, I was going to say Justin Grody's coming in. Yeah, can you kind of help us out with what the error is? Maybe we can.
Yeah, if you could find a issue with the MSI log, that would be very helpful to give us an idea of what can be done with it.
Yeah, and actually, Terry, I think Aditya gave a great idea. Why don't you go ahead and file an issue on us at the repo and give us some of that information, and we'll take a look. Hey, folks, I'm going to pause once again. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. If you get a chance, Stephen is re-pinging his survey. If you get a chance, please go fill out Stephen's survey. To everyone at PSConf, you have a great time. Enjoy the environment. For those of us here, have a great time. Enjoy the wonderful weather and all that kind of thing. And to everybody else, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for attending the June edition of the PowerShell Community Call. See ya.